Now welcome UFC lightweight Michael Chandler. Michael, thank you for the time today, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Appreciate it.
We will take the first set of questions from Gabriel Gonzalez with Cage Side Press.
Yeah. Hold on just a minute.
Hello, this is Gonzalez. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Hi. So, Michael, I know this is where you want to be, but I was curious if, as a competitor, does it bother you that you didn't get to run it back with Pitbull before coming over?
Not at all. You know, this sport affords you a lot of different circumstances, a lot of different events, a lot of different ups and downs. I mean, it's part of the fight business. You know, for me, I'm not about avenging losses. For me, I'm about the constant and never-ending pursuit of the best version of myself, and I can do that in the UFC. I'm excited to go out there and compete against the next UFC lightweight that I get the opportunity to compete against.
Out of curiosity, how much of that peace of mind comes from the fact that you never did close out number 3 with Eddie Alvarez?
I'm not really worried about that either. You know, this is once again, it's circumstances, and it's for me, it's, you know, the trilogy fight with Eddie would have been awesome, but this is an even better opportunity. Fighting in the UFC is where I've always wanted to be. I feel like I'm at home. I feel like I'm the best I've ever been, and I can't wait to go out there and prove that. Either I am who I say I am, or I'm not. Either way, we get to figure that out very soon. Got a lot of wins, got a few losses. I'm not worried about any of those shortcomings or losses of my past. I'm only looking toward the future and the exciting opportunities I have in front of me in the ultimate proving grounds, the UFC.
Can you describe what it's like training for both guys potentially? Is it one day you focus on one, the next on another, or how do you split it?
I focused the majority of my training time focused on me. What can I do to get better as an athlete, as a competitor, and as a fighter? Obviously, I'm training to compete against two very different styles. KHABIB is more of a grappling style. GAETHJE is more of a striking style. So if I can just become the best well-rounded mixed martial artist, both coupling and mixing together the ground game with the striking game, I'm going to put myself in the best possible scenario to be successful against either opponent. So getting to this fight healthy, happy, and ready to make weight and step inside that cage against either guy is the goal. Spirits are extremely high. Couldn't be happier. I'm excited to go out there and compete, whether I get to compete or I don't.
If you don't get to fight for the belts on the 24th, who ideally would you want to be your first fight?
You know, that's up to the powers that be. That's up to the brass and UFC. Obviously, the UFC lightweight division is stacked from top to bottom. The top 5 is an absolute murderer's row. Obviously, having my name thrown into the hat as the backup for the main event against the number 1, number 2 guy is something I do not take lightly. I've been training my tail off accordingly, and I don't have a specific opponent. Top 5. I've said it from the very beginning. I want to come into the UFC. I want to get thrown into the top 5. Either I am who I say I am, or I'm not, and we'll find out pretty quickly. So I want somebody in the top 5. Anybody in the top 5.
Hey, thank you, Michael. Best of luck.
Thank you.
We'll take the next set of questions from Nolan King with MMA Junkie.
Hey, Michael, I appreciate the time today, man. When we spoke before your last fight, you were talking about free agency, and you were saying you weren't really sure what to expect. So going through that process, can you just talk me through what it was like and why ultimately you chose the UFC?
I think it's no secret. I mean, ultimately, I wanted to be in the UFC. Ultimately, I wanted to fight in the UFC octagon. I wanted to go out there and compete against the best guys in the entire world. Now I get that opportunity. If you would have asked me, 6 weeks ago if I was going to sign with the UFC, I would have said, I don't know. I'd say this. I know what my heart said. My heart said I wanted to be here. My heart said I wanted to be on these calls. My heart said I wanted to be going to Fight Island. My heart said I wanted to go and get the opportunity to become the number 1 lightweight undisputed fighter in the entire world. But there's also business decisions that need to be made. There's also numerous organizations vying for my for an opportunity to have me on their roster as well, and that's kind of what happened. We spoke to numerous organizations, but ultimately, when I went to Vegas and I had the conversations with the UFC, the phone calls, the face-to-face meetings, I felt like everything lined up perfectly for the perfect storm of all the last 11 years, the culmination of all the patience and all the persistence, a lot of ups, a few downs, a lot of pain, leading to this moment to get the right deal at the right time with the right organization. And here we are. And I couldn't be happier to be fighting in the UFC very soon in an octagon near you.
I think a lot of people were expecting you to get a big fight in your debut, but what do you think it says about the organization's faith in you that, you know, your first potential opportunity here is fighting in a title fight? I know you're the backup. So were you kind of surprised by that at all? That was the, you know, that they were throwing you right to the top, or was that just say what, you know, what they think about you?
No, because I think this is you know, this industry is this industry warrants competitors who want to be thrown into the fire. This industry needs competitors who want to be thrown into the mix. I didn't need to come in and get a tune-up fight. I think Dana and the powers that be understand who I am. They followed my career for the last 11 years. They know when I step inside the cage, I'm going to come forward, I'm going to bite down on my mouthpiece, and I'm going to go out there and compete extremely hard in an entertaining fashion. So that was also my request as well. I didn't want to come in and get a top 15, top 10 guy. I wanted a top 5 guy right away. I want to be thrown into the mix. And I didn't need to come in and earn the right to be inside that top 5. I wanted to be inside the top 5, and we'll find out pretty quick. Either I am who I say I am or I'm not. But I'm not surprised by it. This kind of does work out perfectly. You got a guy in KHABIB who has pulled out of numerous fights. Justin Gaethje, I don't think, has pulled out of too many fights, but we're living in the COVID-19 era of mixed martial arts where we're taking upwards of 5, 6, 7 tests on leading up to the fight. So the chances of people testing positive, you know, before we just had to worry about weight cuts, we had to worry about injuries, we had to worry about weight cuts and injuries, but now we have to worry about COVID-19 as well. So it's smart to have a backup. I have, number 1, never pulled out of a fight. Number 2, never said no to a fight. Number 3, never missed weight. So I'm the perfect guy at the right time to get this opportunity to show up to Fight Island, to be the backup, and have my name thrown right into the mix. And I think it does say a lot about the UFC's view and vision of me and for me moving forward.
Last one from, we've seen backup fighters in the past. You're perhaps the most high profile backup that we've seen. So when you prepare, you're obviously preparing like you're fighting on that date. Is that difficult at all, knowing that, you know, Khabib and Gaethje, they have one guy to prepare for, so to speak, but you're kind of preparing for 2?
It's true, but really, truthfully, if bad luck does befall the UFC and all of a sudden Michael Chandler has to step up and fight one of those guys, turns out I'm in the better situation because I've been training to fight either one of those guys, and neither of them have been training to fight me. But that's neither here nor there. The focus is 90% focus on myself. Where can I get better in all areas of mixed martial arts? Obviously, work on a ton of ground game for that KHABIB opportunity and option. Focus on and clean up my striking, offense and defense for that possible Gaethje matchup. I think I match up extremely well with both of them from a mixed martial arts mixing of all the different styles. I think I'm kind of the guy in between. I'm kind of the perfect middleman between your ground game fighter in KHABIB and your striking fighter in Justin Gaethje, who isn't afraid to go out there, sling leather, and get into a war. I'm the perfect mixture of both of those guys, which in turn makes me a great matchup for either of those guys. So if I just focus on being me, focus on getting in great shape, showing up happy, healthy, and hard to kill. If I show up October 24th with a fight, I think I'm going to do extremely well against either of those guys and cement myself immediately into that top lightweight in the world picture.
Appreciate the time, Mike. Thanks.
Thank you.
We will take the next set of questions from Dennis Geico with RT.
Oh, Michael, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. Obviously, you don't know if you are going to fight at UFC 254 and which fighter would you face, but which fighter would you rather test yourself against, Khabib or Justin?
It's always been the number 1 guy, you know, and this has always been the question that gets asked to me all the time. Who's your dream matchup? My dream matchup is whoever the number 1 guy is in the world. And I sat down with the UFC, and I sat across the table from Hunter Campbell, and I looked at him and I said, listen, I have not been training to fight the guy that I signed on the dotted line for the last 11 years. I've always been training for your champion, for the number 1 guy in the world. Back in the day, it was Benson Henderson and Frankie Edgar. and then all the way through the Rafael dos Anjoses and the Anthony Pettis's, and then into the Eddie era, and then the Conor era, and then now the Khabib era. I've been training to fight those guys since day one. So for me, it's always been, who's the number one lightweight in the world? The number one lightweight in the world is Khabib Nurmagomedov. He's looked as close to as unbeatable as any fighter ever has in the history of the sport. So that's the guy I want to test myself against. That's the guy who it excites me to stand in front of. That's the guy who it excites me to stand across the cage from. So he's the number one guy. I want that number one spot. Either way, it's hard to talk about this scenario without realizing that this is bad luck happening for the UFC and this main event falling off and then me stepping in. But if I had it my way, if a fighter does pull out, I would like for it to be GAETHJE, so I can fight Khabib, be the number one lightweight in the world, the night of October 24th.
Do you remember the day when Khabib won the championship belt against GAETHJE on April 7, 2018? Where were you back then, and were you watching this fight live?
I was watching the fight live. I've always been interested in Khabib Nurmagomedov as an athlete. From day one, when he first stepped into that UFC octagon, I knew he was a special talent. I knew he was a special competitor. I knew he would eventually be the champion, be the number one lightweight in the world. He's always been a guy I've had my eye on. He's a guy who I've at times emulated and tried to pull things from his style. He's also a guy that I've trained for the last, 3, 4, 5, 6 years to make sure, okay, I need to have my game in a place where I can beat that guy. And now I possibly get that opportunity. I think I was at home. I was having a party. I was having people over for the fights, and we were watching it. And I remember being in the room with numerous family members and friends, and all of us saying, okay, that's our guy. And he's probably going to be holding that belt for a very long time. Possibly whenever I step foot into the UFC octagon for the first time, I bet he's probably still holding the title. Here we are, fast forward 2-3 years later, and that is the case. So now I get that opportunity on October 24th, possibly, if not October 24th, sometime in 2021.
So did you think back then, how would you do in this fight against Khabib when you were watching him fighting GAETHJE?
Yes, because I've always, I've always, as I said, admired his style. He has a very ground game dominant style. He lets it be known exactly what his style is going to be. He's going to come forward. He's going to put pressure up on you. He's going to push you up against the cage. He's going to pick you up. He's going to put you down, and he's going to hold you there for 25 minutes if you let him, or until he gets the finish. So that's a part of my game that I've always said, I think I have the right recipe to beat a Khabib. Now, Khabib Nurmagomedov is the best lightweight in the world. As the records stand, as the rankings stand, he is the number one lightweight in the world. But I believe I have the recipe to beat Khabib Nurmagomedov. I believe I am the dark horse of the division. I immediately went from outsider to insider to dark horse to champion in the next 12 months, and that's what I'm going to do. And whether I have to beat Khabib or I beat GAETHJE or I beat someone else, I will be UFC lightweight champion in the next.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
We will take the next set of questions from Ezekiel Berganzi with Somos MMA.
Hey, hello, Michael. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. So, like you said, you jumped from the outside and you just get into the mix of the top 5 contenders in the lightweight division. So, do you feel pressure about that? And do you feel like this is similar to the Ben Askren situation when he just got signed to the UFC and he got in the mix, in the top 5 mix?
No. So number one, I don't feel any pressure whatsoever. This is the biggest opportunity with the least amount of pressure. Pressure is stepping in the cage against a guy that you're supposed to beat. Nobody says I'm supposed to beat Khabib. Nobody says I'm supposed to beat GAETHJE. Nobody says I'm supposed to beat anybody in the top 5. I say that. My family says that. My training partners say that. My coaches say that. So there's a very small group of people out there that truly believe that I'm, the number one lightweight in the world. But they also didn't think I was going to beat Eddie Alvarez back in 2011 when I was 8-0, only 16 months into the sport. I love being the underdog. I love being counted out, and I love having the deck stacked against me. That's what we live for. It's these types of opportunities and moments that we live for. So when you talk about pressure, no, I think there's zero pressure. There's just excitement. There's a newfound joy and a newfound tenacity and a newfound purpose for myself and all my life that I get to go compete against the best guys in the world. I've been saying I'm the number one lightweight in the world for 10, 11 years. I've had a lot of ups. I've lost some fights I shouldn't have lost. I've proven the doubters correct that I wasn't the best lightweight in the world numerous times. But now here I am as I sit here today and speak to you and speak to the media. I believe I'm the best lightweight in the world. I'm the best shape mentally, physically, and spiritually that I ever have been. And when you speak about Ben Askren, who's a good friend of mine, he got thrown into the mix right away, and he wanted that. That's what we do. The best competitors in the entire world, the men and women that we look up to in sports, are the people that want to be thrown into the fire again and again and again. We are galvanized by the fire. We are galvanized by these high pressure situations. That's what I want. I don't want to come in tiptoe. As I said before, you've heard me say it before, pull your hat down tight. I only know one speed. I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. And if we're here for a good time, let's throw me right into the mix. Either I am who I say I am, or I'm not. Give me a top 5 guy right away. Give me number 1, number 2, October 24th. We'll see. Do I sink or swim?
There were a lot of comments from fighters like Charles DuBronx or Dan Hooker, and he said that he would love to welcome you to send you back to the B leagues, to the second leagues. Do you think that there is a lot of underestimate from UFC fighters to the Bellator fighters that bothers you, that maybe people look Bellator fighters and say, oh, he will not make it to the UFC, or he will not have the capacity to beat a top 15? Do you think that bothers you? What do you think about that?
I think the good thing is people are talking. Let's be honest. The press is good. Whether guys are saying I'm a B league fighter, they're saying I'm a no name, they're saying I'm a minor league fighter. That's fine. That is their opinion. They're entitled to it. There's a very large contingency of people out there who think I am in the top of the division, of the lightweight division in the world rankings, in the standings. There's a lot of people out there who believe that. Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. The good thing is we don't have to talk about it. We don't even have to think about it. There will come a time where I strap on those UFC gloves after I get my hands wrapped and I step inside the UFC octagon against a top 5 guy, and I'm going to sink or swim, and I'm going to get that opportunity. Dan Hooker, phenomenal competitor. Charles Oliveira, phenomenal competitor. Possibly fights with those guys down the road. I don't know what fights will happen. As I said, I'm not a matchmaker. I'm the fighter. I show up. I'm a great employee first. I show up. I say yes. I sign on the dotted line. I make weight. And I go out there. I bite down on the mouthpiece, and I get into a physical altercation, hand-to-hand combat. If it's with one of those guys, we'll see. As I said, I need a top 5 guy right away. There's a lot of speculation right now with Conor, Poirier. Ferguson doesn't look like he has an opponent, and nobody's talking about him, so that could be a possibility. Obviously, I'm just focused on October 24th. It looks like nobody else is going to be stepping in there. I am the backup. So I'll be out there on Fight Island, fine-tuning sharpening my skills, sharpening my UFC Fight Week skills. This is a great opportunity for me to go to Fight Island, get a dry run, get a dress rehearsal of what a UFC Fight Week looks like, and I get to do that here in a couple weeks, and I'm tickled pink about it.
You just mentioned Dustin Poirier. It is true that the UFC offered you that fight, but he refused to be loyal to Tony Ferguson?
For me, and I said this since day one, I wanted to come in, I signed on the dotted lines, let the UFC do what they do. I will say the fight wasn't necessarily offered to me, but let's be honest, we talk about matchups. Hey, are you down to fight this guy, this date, here or there? I said yes to everything. As long as he was in the top 5 and as long as it was pretty darn soon, I was ready to step inside the cage. So obviously he was a guy who was in the top 5, and he was a guy who was looking to fight on Fight Island. The October 24th date made sense. But no, the fight wasn't offered to me. There was no bout agreements. There was no contracts. I said I would be willing to fight him, Tony Ferguson, Conor, anybody in the top 5. So here we are. I'm the backup on October 24th. And possibly your new lightweight champion October 24th. So we'll find out.
And my last question is, did you find any difference between the UFC and Bellator? In management in this case, because you didn't have your first fight in UFC yet, but have you noticed any difference between them? Can you tell us about that?
So far, as you said, I haven't had my first fight there. Haven't had my first fight in the octagon yet. I've had a lot of media requests. Getting opportunity to do this with a ton of interviews today is awesome. The media push, the PR behind the machine that is the greatest mixed martial arts franchise in the entire world, the UFC. And I said this since day one. I have been making a great living outside of the UFC, and Dana White has had his name on every single one of my paychecks for the last 11 years because of him building this sport, building this organization into what it is. And so far, yes, it's been nothing but phenomenal. My dealings with the UFC, with Hunter Campbell, with Dana White, dealings with everybody behind the scenes from PR to marketing to fighter operations to travel. It's a well-oiled, well-organized, well-balanced, get after it machine. And I'm excited to be a part of it because that's how I live my life. I like speed. I like to operate with integrity. I like to do things right. I like to be exactly who I say I am and do exactly what I say I'm going to do. And thus far, my dealings with the UFC have been just that.
Thank you very much. And if you fight, good luck.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
We will take our next set of questions from Mike Bond with USA Today.
Hey, Mike, when did they tell you that officially you would not be getting another opponent on this card and it would be a backup role or bust as far as fighting?
It was pretty much right whenever you guys heard it, that exact day. I had a call with Dana. I spoke to Dana, and he talked about how today was the announcement and my life was about to change. And I said, hey, you've never signed anybody to your roster that is equally yoked with your organization as I am. So I'm excited about the opportunity. I'm excited to see what the future holds. I told him I've never pulled out of a fight. I've never said no to a fight. I've never missed weight. So I'm the perfect guy to stand in as the replacement bout if somebody does not step into that cage October 24th. If one of the current lightweights can't step into the cage October 24th. Life's all about moments, memories, and opportunities, and I've had a lot of great moments, a ton of great memories, and getting this opportunity at this time, I was going to say yes to it, and it was the exact same days that you guys heard it.
Gotcha. And when do you think you're finally going to be able to exhale as far as, maybe not getting that opportunity? Is it going to be when KHABIB and GAETHJE face off after they make weight, when you actually see them in the octagon? When do you think you're going to be able to actually let go of the idea of maybe actually being the replacement there?
That's the interesting thing and also the beauty of it. I love to live the exact opposite of a mundane, boring life. So for me, this is perfect for me. I really will not know whether or not I'm fighting until I think we're all going to make weight. I wouldn't even put it past the UFC to have me wrap my hands up and show up to the event. Who knows? I mean, these days we saw Tony Ferguson pull out of the Tony Ferguson versus KHABIB fight because he tripped over a electrical cord on fight week. Anything can happen inside that octagon, and anything can happen before we step into that octagon. So my job description is the number one lightweight contender who will step into the cage for one of these guys as a replacement, whether it's replacement today or a very, very late replacement on October 24th, 7 minutes before those two guys are supposed to fight. That's my job description. I call my end of the bargain. That is my end of the bargain. So fight day, maybe, until my phone rings and it says, and Dana White calls me and says, hey, you're off. These guys are going to fight. Until then, I'm focused like I'm fighting October 24th.
Yeah. Is there going to be any part of this that's going to be tough to deal with after the fact? If you don't fight, like you go through a training camp, you build it up so big in your head, and then you don't get to go have that release that you would typically have in terms of the fight. Do you think it's going to feel a little weird, if you're not stepping in there on the 24th?
I think no, I don't, because I think it's just in life we always have to make the best decision possible with the information that we have. Information that I have is I have an opportunity to be the replacement. Maybe it comes to fruition that I fight. Maybe it comes to fruition that I just show up, I make weight. None of it will be for naught. I'm getting better. I'm training with my team. I'm training with my coaches. I'm making weight again. I'm staying light. I'm staying lean. I'm in the media. I'm on SportsCenter. I'm all over the social medias. My name is being inserted into the mix very quickly as one of the top lightweights in the world. So whether I step into that cage October 24th or not, whether I just make weight and then I kick back and watch the fights, in a back room somewhere or at the hotel, that's all part of the process. It's all the reality that which I need to accept. And I think embracing and enjoying the uncertainty that comes with the sport of mixed martial arts, both inside the cage and outside the cage, is something that I will look back on someday and miss. 15 years from now, when I'm a retired fighter, I look back, even if the weight cut is horrible, and even if one of these guys pulls out, but then comes back and pulls out, and I was this close to getting a title shot on my first fight in UFC, and it seems like a bad scenario, I'll look back 15 years from now and say, man, that was an awesome experience. What a great time of life. What a time to be alive for me. And what a great opportunity. So no matter what, none of this is wasted. Not one moment since I signed with the UFC has been wasted. We're building, we are onward and upward, and we are growing. And I'm moving towards becoming the best lightweight in the world, like I've said I have been for the last decade. And soon I'll get to prove it.
Great way to look at it. And I don't know if I've heard you ask this one before. What do you think of the UFC octagon compared to the circular Bellator cage? Do you think that impacts your fighting style at all in terms of footwork, the ability to cut corners, things like that?
That is actually really interesting too, because my business partner and my production company, we're down here filming some content. He just started talking about this morning, because I'm wearing the UFC gloves now in my training. We're getting some awesome footage, and then we started talking about, oh, now you're going to be fighting in an octagon or a cage, and or in a circular cage is what I've been used to the last basically 23 fights. But I don't really see a difference. I think when you're inside that cage, well, number one, I train inside an octagon at Stanford MMA down here in Florida, in Deerfield Beach. So I'm training in an octagon. So before I was training in an octagon for a circle cage. Now I'm training in an octagon to be fighting in an octagon. So I've been prepared for it. I think at some point the shape of the cage doesn't really matter too much. It's more the symbolism. It's more symbolic of, for me, stepping into the ultimate proving grounds, which is the UFC, and I'm excited about the opportunity. I don't care if it's a square, an octagon, a circle. I'm going to go out there. I'm going to bite down on my mouthpiece and get into a hand-to-hand combat. But I am extremely happy, extremely excited that it is the UFC octagon.
Well, last thing for me, you mentioned a bunch of times that you want a top 5 guy if this doesn't materialize. And you mentioned that potential Conor versus Poirier fight that would take 2 guys off the board. Do you think that's a fight that makes sense for the division? And I guess, is there any disappointment that those wouldn't be 2 options for you if they do fight?
Of course, I wouldn't say the word is disappointed. It makes sense. I mean, that's a good fight. There's been momentum brewing on Poirier's side. Since he lost to Conor, he's looked nothing but spectacular. Conor McGregor is the biggest draw in the history of combat sports. If that's who Conor wants to fight, he's going to fight him. If I'm who Conor wants to fight, he's going to fight me. But yeah, talking about those 2 guys, if those 2 guys are matched up, yeah, that takes out 2 guys in the top 5. Obviously, with KHABIB and GAETHJE lined up, Conor and Poirier, that really only leaves Tony Ferguson. So I'd love the opportunity to fight Tony Ferguson. I'd love the opportunity to fight anybody in the top 5. So we'll see what happens. Either way, if I take my competitor hat off and I put my fan hat on, Conor versus Poirier is a great fight, even though I would love to fight either of those guys.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Appreciate the time.
Thanks, Mike.
We will take our next set of questions from Cote Cruz with the 4 to Win podcast.
Michael?
Hey, Cote, how are you?
Hey, how you doing, buddy? Congratulations on getting into the UFC. And cheers, man.
Thank you.
Looks like some
Thank you
tasty
very
water.
much. Let's go. Oh, yeah, sorry.
That's okay, buddy. So you come into the organization as a big name in the sport. Dan Hooker and Paul Felder already threw their names into the hat to welcome you to the octagon. You're currently the alternate to this fight in UFC 254. Please walk me through the journey that started back in 2009, back in the Ozarks, down into this instance of Fight Island. Do you believe you're crossing the UFC's door at the right time?
I am. I think this is the perfect time for the perfect opportunity, and I am in the perfect spot to be thrown into the mix. When you talk about 2009, so for those that don't know, I graduated college in May of 2009. I fought my first fight in August of 2009 down at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Tyron Woodley was my manager, training partner, coach, cornerman. We stayed at a little Marriott down at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. Got my first win. But even at that point, I still didn't know that mixed martial arts was going to be my career. If you would have asked me a year prior, or even asked me at that moment, hey, are you going to do this for the next 10, 11 years, make a great living for your family, make a great platform to try to inspire and motivate people and move people with what you do, I would have said, I don't really know if that's going to happen. Here we are, 26 fights later, 11 years later, and I feel like all of it was culminating to this moment, to this opportunity, and I couldn't be more happy. You know, I think, and I even told Dana White this whenever we spoke, I said, hey, 2 years ago, I don't think I would have been ready. 4 years ago, I wouldn't have been ready to be the superstar, to be the man that you need me to be for this organization, to be the champion that you need me to be for this organization. But right now, in 2020, where I'm at mentally, physically, and spiritually, where my skill set is, where my confidence is, where my purpose is, this is exactly where I need to be, and I have no doubt that my feet are planted firmly on solid ground, exactly where I need to be for this moment and this opportunity. It's been a long ride, a lot of ups, a couple downs, a lot of pain, a ton of awesome memories that I've made, and now I still think the best is yet to come. My best days are out ahead of me, and I'm extremely excited about the opportunity.
Yeah, and a body of work that speaks tons about the kind of fighter you are. In terms of the fight, of the impending fight, who'd you prefer to face if your time to step up comes? Would you be more interested in the chaos that Justin provides, or would you be willing to test yourself about one of the biggest lightweights in history?
I've always said that the number one lightweight in the world is always my number one choice. When people say who's your dream matchup, it's never a legend of the past. It's never anybody that doesn't hold the UFC lightweight belt, the number one guy in the world. So for the last number of years, it's been KHABIB Nurmagomedov. That's why I have spoken on the subject on him as much as I have. So ideally, it's a fight against KHABIB, but no matter what, the Chandler versus GAETHJE fight has to happen somewhere down the line. He's a guy who's on record who said, I want to make my opponents see their own blood. I want to engage in car crashes with them. And there's no better dance partner than me to go get into a bunch of car crashes in front of millions of people in the UFC octagon. I respect both men as competitors. I respect both men as athletes. They right now are my number one, KHABIB, and number two options for the two fights that I want, but KHABIB would definitely have to be number one.
Just to connect real quick with this thing you said about not being interested in fighting guys from the past or whatever, I was thinking about if you had any kind of bucket list kind of fight, like with active fighters, whatever, it's just for the love of the sheer violence and the sheer joy of watching you perform. Who would you think that would bring the best out of you?
So I think if this was, I think if this was 5 years from now, 10 years from now, and I was a young up and comer 10 years from now, and I'm a lightweight, I would say KHABIB. I would say KHABIB today, and I would also say KHABIB for the next decade, because KHABIB has shown to be just about as unbeatable as you possibly can be in the sport of mixed martial arts and at the lightweight division. He has barely looked infallible whatsoever. He is extremely dominant. He is a man who really truly lives out his passion for as a competitor, as an athlete. He's the guy that I want to face in the entire world among all of the different classes of mixed martial arts when it comes to the very beginnings in the 1990s, the 2000s, and now into 2020. Of course, there's other guys. GSP is one of the greatest of all time, who's around my weight class. I've always had a ton of respect for him. Back in the day, it was BJ Penn and Matt Hughes, but for the most part, it's KHABIB and it's Conor. KHABIB because he is the best athlete we've ever seen, the most dominant pound-for-pound mixed martial arts athlete we've ever seen, I believe. And then Conor McGregor because he is the biggest, most polarizing figure that we have ever seen, and may very well will ever see, and not just in the sport of mixed martial arts, not just in combat sports, but in sports in general.
I see. What are your main objectives now that you're able to showcase your skills and heart on the biggest platform this beautiful sport has to offer? And I mean, I know that MMA is a results kind of game, but besides the result, beyond that? What are your main objectives now that you're here?
Truly, I think now being put on the biggest platform possible to show people a physical manifestation of the fight that everyone is going through every single day, whether it be in their business, in their relationships, in the circumstances that they have that they are encountering in their life. I believe that mixed martial arts is the greatest sport on the planet Earth today because of what Dana White and the UFC did by getting it back on air ASAP as soon as possible after a worldwide pandemic, giving people something somewhat of normalcy, somewhat of hope to look for, to strive to, and to have an outlet for. And for me, I want to be thrown into the mix. I want to be put in that octagon as soon as possible to paint a masterpiece of the ebbs and flows, the ups and downs, the trials and the tragedies of what the sport of mixed martial arts is as a metaphor for life and as a metaphor for the fights that all of us are going through. And I truly believe that everyone is drawn to mixed martial arts, whether you love it, you hate it, or you're somewhere in between. If you're somewhat lukewarm on the topic or on the sport, you have to somewhat be drawn to it because it is in its purest form. It's the purest form of combat that we have on Earth and that we have in organized sports. And I love to be on the roster of the biggest organization in the world and the ultimate proving grounds in the UFC.
Well, Michael, it was a long time coming for us fans here. We're glad to see you being able to prove yourself in the octagon. Nothing but luck. Best of luck for you if you end up fighting soon as a replacement, or if you have a debut against another top guy. To close it up, do you have any final words for your South American and Latin American fans that look forward to see you compete?
I'm just excited to go out there and put on a great show for the South American and Latin American fans. If you haven't watched me fight, quick preview. I'm going to bite down on my mouthpiece. I'm going to come forward. I'm going to keep you on the edge of your seat. I only know one speed, and I'm excited to go out there and put on a great show for you guys. So looking forward to it very soon.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And we will take our last set of questions from Pablo Santamaria with Noti MMA Ecuador.
Hi, Michael. Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Well, the first thing I want to ask you is, what was your reaction when Dana told you that you will be the replacement for the title fight?
It wasn't something that I necessarily saw coming, but I knew we were talking about that October 24th date. There was numerous guys that were available in the top 5 for that October 24th date. Whenever the stuff was happening behind the scenes with the other fighters in the top 5 who didn't want to step into the cage to be October 24th, that seemed like the best option that the UFC needed out of me. I've never once turned down a fight. I've never once said no to a fight, and I've never once missed weight. So I am the perfect guy to be the backup for October 24th, arguably the biggest card of the entire year, and arguably one of the biggest UFC lightweight title fights in the history of the company. So to get my name thrown into the mix and to be the guy that the UFC can rely on if things start to go south was a perfect storm for me, because it shows my reliability, and it shows also the UFC's vision and view for me in my career right out of the gate.
So Dana said that he always loved the guys that fights anytime, anywhere. It doesn't matter with who. So how's been your relationship with Dana until now?
It's been phenomenal thus far. You know, we've had some really great conversations talking about vision, talking about future, talking about philosophy of mixed martial arts, talking about and I told him since day one, you've never signed a guy who's going to be a better employee and who is more equally yoked with your organization, the vision you have for this company, as well as a phenomenal athlete. I am that guy for you, and I will be that guy for you day in and day out. I've never turned down a fight. I've never said no to a fight, and I'm excited to go out there and compete against the best guys in the world and go win your UFC lightweight title. And I told him that, and I told him I'm going to be champion in the next 12 months. I could be champion in the next 3 weeks, so we'll see.
So, okay, I get it. So if you don't get to fight, do you think this will be a good experience and make you grow as a fighter or as a person?
Absolutely. You know, this is this is an opportunity that there's a lot of uncertainty, that surrounds it. I know on October 14th, we head to Vegas, we quarantine, we get our coronavirus test, we hop on a plane, we go to Fight Island, and we spend about 7 days there on Fight Island for a fight card that I may or may not be on. I understand there's a lot of uncertainty. I understand that there's no guarantee that I'm going to fight. Chances are in all likelihood, I probably won't fight. But you have to have a fallback plan. You have to have a safety net, and there's no better, more exciting, more willing and able competitor to be your fallback plan than myself, especially as hungry as I am. I said right away, I'm not here for a long time. I'm here for a good time. They know they're not signing the 22-year-old kid who's going to be here for the next decade and a half. I want to come in right away, shake things up, throw my name into the mix, and prove to everybody that I'm one of the best lightweights in the entire world, if not the best lightweight in the entire world. But for me, all of this is a brand new experience. I've been doing this. Been engaged in the sport of mixed martial arts, competing in a cage, making a living in mixed martial arts for the last 11 years. But this is just the first month that I've now been signed with the UFC. So getting my footing underneath me, being reached out to by all the UFC staff, USADA staff, PR, communications, and then when we get out to Fight Island, meeting people face to face, getting to get the personal touches, the personal relationships right away, because these people are going to be my colleagues for the next foreseeable future, for the next 10, 15 fights, until I call it quits. So for me, it's a good dry run, dress rehearsal, and an exciting time in my life, whether I fight or not, October 24th.
Okay, I get it. So, I mean, you in an interview with Ariel Helwani, you said that you think your wrestling is better than KHABIB. So a lot of people were talking like, oh, no, what? I don't think he's better than KHABIB on his wrestling. But what you will say to that people? I mean, I saw your wrestling sessions with Kamaru, and they are like unbelievable. So what will you say to the people that haven't seen you wrestle?
Well, a lot of those people don't know what Division I NCAA wrestling is. They don't understand what folk style and freestyle wrestling is. They see what KHABIB does, and his dominant manifestation of grappling and pushing guys up against the cage, and they call it wrestling. KHABIB's mixed martial arts wrestling and sambo is extremely exceptional. It's exquisite. It's as close to unbeatable as we've seen of any style matchup, not just in the lightweight division, but across all divisions in the UFC. And but what I bring to the table is a perfect mixture of mixed martial arts, striking tenacity, mixing it up with wrestling, being able to pick a guy up, put him down, and being able to get up if KHABIB takes you down, and being able to hold KHABIB down if I take him down. That's what I believe. I could be wrong. I don't think I am. I think I'm correct in my assessment of my skills. And I hope I get the opportunity to prove that in the very near future.
Okay, Michael. So if you cannot fight Justin or KHABIB, you have Tony, Dustin, and Conor. If you could pick any one of those three, who would you pick to fight?
Conor's the biggest name in combat sports, in the history of combat sports. So if we have fans there, I want to be a part of a Conor fight with a ton of people in the crowd, millions and millions watching on TV, on pay-per-view. It's a fight that I would want outside of KHABIB and GAETHJE. But Poirier and Ferguson are by no means playing second fiddle to that. I would love any of those three matchups, any of those top five guys, KHABIB, GAETHJE, Conor, Poirier, or Ferguson. Those are all perfect scenarios, perfect guys for me to fight. It looks like Poirier and Conor might be setting something up in the works, getting something matched up. That leaves Tony Ferguson. I think he and I could go out there, put on a phenomenal show for the fans.
Okay, so you're talking about the Conor and Dustin. If that fight happens, who do you think will win?
I think Conor beats Poirier again. I do think. I think the Conor that we saw step into the cage against Cowboy Cerrone in his last outing, I think that we didn't get to see much of his skill set, but his poise, his focus, he looked like Conor is a constant pinball of being extremely motivated and then kind of going off the rails a little bit. But I think a focused Conor McGregor goes out there and would be able to beat Poirier again. But Poirier has looked phenomenal in his last few outings. But I would have to give the slight edge to Conor.
Okay, so would you like to send a message to your Ecuadorian fans, Michael?
Yes, I love the people of Ecuador. I can't wait to go out there and put on a phenomenal show for you guys. Whenever I finally get to step into that octagon, be on the edge of your seat. Don't blink, because I'm bringing fireworks, and we're going to have a good time.
Okay, thank you very much, Michael, and I cannot wait to see you in the UFC out there.
Thank you, Pablo. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. That is the end of our time with you, sir. We really appreciate it. You did a phenomenal job. Have a fantastic day, sir.
All right. Appreciate you guys. Have a great one.
That concludes the UFC 254 Virtual Media Day. As a final reminder, UFC 254 will take place Saturday, October 24th on Abu Dhabi's Yas Island, and will stream live on pay-per-view exclusively through ESPN Plus in the US at a special broadcast time of 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. local. We would like to thank everyone for being here today and your supporting coverage. We will distribute video and audio downloads from today's events to your emails as soon as they are available. Have a great day, everyone.